call the meeting of the Parsippany Troy Hills Board of Education to order on February 13th, 2025. In compliance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act in the following manner. A meeting notice was published in the newspaper and on the district website on January 8th, 2025. In addition, the notice of the meeting was posted at the municipal building, in the schools, and a copy of the notice filed with the township clerk and transmitted to other newspapers on February 19th, 2025. The Daily Record, the Star Ledger, Parsippany Focus, Tappan Parsippany Patch, and the district website. This regular public board meeting is being video recorded as per bylaw 168. The recordings of these meetings will be available on our district website and our Video on the Go YouTube channel. We ask that you please refrain from using student or staff names in your statement. Professionalism is expected at all times. May we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Abraham?
Here.
Mr. Barrios?
Here.
Mr. DeVito?
Here.
Mrs. Mayer?
Here.
Mr. Rea?
Here.
Mrs. Chappelle?
Here.
Dr. Wright?
Here.
Mr. Chapo? Absent. Ms. Cogan?
Here. Please stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our student committee reports. Go ahead, Ms.
Good evening, I'm Emma Gonzalez from Parsippany High School, and I'm so excited to share this week's past events with you. Winter athletics have ended, with boys wrestling finishing their district's tournament last Saturday to girls basketball having their last match today. We are so proud of all of our teams, and we are so excited to see where our spring teams will take us. Our Tri-N Honor Society is planning to paint a mural in the school to publicize the music community. At the moment, we are attempting to also reach out to elementary schools to introduce our music program. Our National Spanish Honor Society had their dinner last week where the seniors cooked for the juniors. It was a great way for the society to connect together, and we hope that other clubs will begin to implement something similar. Our Key Club had their coffee house last week, and we are so proud of everyone that took part in the event. Our academic decathlon team has their state competition this Saturday. We are so proud of everyone that is on the team and their hard work throughout the year. Our school is also just beginning to publicize the opportunity for our upcoming senior class, the Senior Internship Program. Our winter concert is next week for our PHS choir and band, and we are so excited to showcase and see the skills our peers have worked on since their winter concert. As of now, our student council is working with the Hills Student Council to create the Rivals volleyball game. We are trying to get more teams involved and get local businesses involved as well. We are so excited for this event and a little bit of fun competition between the two schools. Last week, we also had a student go to the Treble All-State Choir, and we are so proud of her. This year, we have had 7 students participate in this great event, and we are so proud of everyone. And to finish off, our guidance counselors are preparing for the next school year by calling students to pick in their classes for next year. And we are so excited for our next report, too. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions for our students? Is there a date for the volleyball? Or
I think that we're planning on doing it next week, I believe, but I'll have to get back to you. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you so much.
Excellent job.
Okay. Is there any correspondence to come before the board?
No, there's not.
All right, so we're up to unfinished. Is there any official unfinished business? No? You can do it during liaison if you're not sure. So now we're up to committee reports. We have quite a few. So, Mr. DeVito, do you want to do buildings and grounds?
Thank you, Mrs. Cogan. Buildings and Grounds met on February 26th. In attendance were myself, Mr. Barrios, Dr. Wright, Mrs. Cogan, Mrs. Tedesco, and Mrs. Benos. Key things to discuss, we talked about the Lake Parsippany HVAC that is in progress. The Tabor and Littleton roof replacement that is approved. The work is supposed to start in June and be finished by August. The PHHS cafeteria serving line renovations. You'll see there's in the addendum for those for approval tonight on that project, the PHHS HVAC rod grant. That's work is continuing on that, and the project is set up to be completed for March of 2025. We also discussed the various capital projects for the 2025-2026 budget, which include our normal paving, door, floors, et cetera, and the upgrades for Lake Parsippany HVAC. The second phase of the Littleton addition is also being budgeted for the 2025-2026 school year. We also talked about the better due diligence questions that we came up with, and that is buildings and grounds, if anyone had any questions on any specific items.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Looks like nobody over there has another committee report, right? No. Okay. So, Mr. Ray, you want to give us communications?
Sure. Communications Committee met on February 24th. Attending were Mrs. Benos, Mrs. Cogan, Dr. Wright, and myself. And basically the meeting, we didn't really have much of an agenda, but we did have we wanted to review the questions that we came up with regarding the due diligence questions. And then we kind of like did a little think tank kind of for like half an hour or so, just to expand upon those questions. So a couple of the things we came up with as far as communicating is just to consider the impact that a communication or a press release might have on other committees. Like, is it going to impact building and grounds, finance? You know, just to make sure that we're interacting correctly, and also to give attorney review for most of the releases that we do put through. So that was pretty much it. But I think it was a useful conversation. And then I also had the PAL board meeting last week that would have been on the 19th, 20th. It was on the 20th. And some of the things that were talked about, there were a few things. So there's new programs are starting next week in art, in yoga, the men's basketball league. There is an advanced basketball training, and they're also working on. They're in the early stages of a new logo. It's the PAL Panthers, and they are considering a logo that incorporates the blue color of Parsippany Hills High School and the red color of Parsippany High School, and coming up with something. So I think it was interesting. We'll see how it turns out. Nick Bronzino, he's the new executive director. He has hit the ground running. He is hitting the ground on all angles. He's going to also, we're arranging a meeting to set up with the sports committee, and we'll be pursuing that. He also had a meet and greet after the board meeting, and it was well attended. There's probably, I'm going to say, 75 to 100 people there, so it was very well attended, and that was it. That's in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Any questions, I should say?
Mr. Vio?
No, just a question back on communication. So I see you were there, Mrs. Cogan. There's only 3 board members total. Was there anybody asked maybe to fill in? Because I guess we were missing someone.
Well, actually, yeah, Michelle didn't make the meeting, but Wendy was there and filled in. Because she's not on the committee.
Right, and
Yeah.
Mr. Chaffo wasn't there, so.
He was
also
not.
He's also on the committee, saying, so if you
Yes.
knew he was gonna be there.
Ms. Chappelle did
Yeah.
not miss it intentionally, so we did not know there would be a seat available.
That's right. So Wendy was filling Andy's seat, and there was.
Got it, okay, no problem.
Any other questions?
Mrs. Mayor for personnel?
I have a couple of things. Personnel met on February 25th. Present were myself, Mrs. Abraham, Dr. Wright, Mrs. Cogan, and Mr. Ricker. Mr. Ricker talked about general staffing updates. The principals are currently getting together to, recommend, submitting recommendations for non-tenured staffing members. as well as tenured people. At the March 13th meeting, the Personnel Committee will be able to look at the abstracts. Retirement submissions, to date, there have been 4. Any posted after staff meetings are held and transfer requests are considered. Transfer request, a memo was sent in February 6th with the due date of March 1st. All requests are considered, and if all possible, they are granted. You know, it's very hard to move people around, so hopefully we'll be able to accommodate. There are 5 currently right now. Limited CE or CEAS application. The district application for participation in a limited certificate of eligibility, 5-year pilot program. It's a mouthful. It was approved on January 21st by the Morris County Superintendent, and it allows us more opportunities to fill openings where they come and then they, you know, I think they have till 2027 to, you know, that runs out, and then they have to be, you know, they're observed, everything, and they have to be reported how they did, and then they become a provisional teacher, and they go through the different steps. Let's see what else. Questions to ensure better communication due diligence were added to the document. I think that it's posted. Let's see. Can I give, okay.
Can we ask if there's any questions?
Okay.
On her personnel report? No, now you can move
Okay.
to your next one. Sorry.
I have an update on the superintendent search. Our consultant, Kathleen Hellowa, her name always gets me. She's going to have community forums. The first one will be on Tuesday, March 11th. At 3:30, she's going to meet with APSA here. At 4:30, she'll be meeting with the Partroy Council of PTAs, where presidents from all the 14 schools will be here. And at 6:30, there'll be a community forum also held here. The next day will be March 13th, from 2:30 to 4:30. All staff, the PTHEA and teachers, then the ESA PTH secretaries, the paras, and then Local 32. And then at 5:30, all of the board members at executive session will have a chance to meet with her. Okay, any questions on that?
No, there's also information on the website.
Right.
And the survey is also posted on the website, and we're going to try to get that, the flyer about the community center, the community forum out in different places like the library and different places that, you know,
Right.
people who may not see it online can also see it to make sure that the community knows.
The last thing I wanted to report on was when I went to Intervale School that time, I got a nice note, and I'm not reading the whole note, but I think this one little part will be very interesting. We enjoyed learning about what it is like to be a teacher and a member of the Board of Education. We were surprised to learn that you don't get to decide about snow days. I thought that was, they were like, you don't tell us, you don't make that? I said, no, it's not us, it's the superintendent.
It's
Tell
all
your
me.
parents.
I love it.
Sending them your way.
Snow days are the best decisions that I get to make in the district. Oh, they're fantastic. The support I get is unbelievable.
I should have told them how much you enjoy making those decisions.
Unbelievable support. Love it. Thank you.
And I'll be
Rock
going back,
solid.
not next week, the week after, to do part 2 of our experiment, because they made a suggestion how to further that experiment. So instead of me doing it at home, you know, and I could report out, I figured it would be really good for them to see it, because it was their suggestion, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, you know, we can discuss why it didn't work. I think that's the best thing, you know, they can see an experiment. If it works, fabulous. If not, we wasted an egg. Although, the price of eggs, that's not a
That's a
cheap
big
thing to
thing.
waste. But that's pretty much my reports.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Abraham?
I just had a quick question. The one that you were talking about at Intervale, that was part of Career Day, correct?
Yeah.
Are they having a continuation of it?
No, this was just because I did an experiment, and they wanted me to try to do it another way. So they asked if I could do it. So I'm just making a special appearance.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a liaison report? Mrs. Abraham? Oh, Mrs. Abraham?
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that CPAC met on February 19th virtually, and the presentation was about understanding IEPs, or the Individualized Education Program. And it's a written plan that outlines the educational programs and services that a student who qualifies for an IEP can receive to achieve their academic goals. And just so the details that they went into was about how it's developed with the child study team, the parents, the teachers, other professionals like speech or occupational therapists to meet the academic needs of the student, and the IEP process and how it begins with evaluations and is conducted to determine eligibility of a disability that is interfering with a student's academic education. And a timeline was followed from first referral to evaluation and eligibility with a certain time period, and the expectations of an IEP meeting were also discussed, along with participants such as parents, general ed teachers, special ed teachers, CST members, case managers, and other related service professionals. A lot of conversations were talking about how it can be overwhelming to navigate as there's a lot of information, but parents are always encouraged to ask questions anytime. And the CST and the other staff are always available to help. And also wanted to mention that any time parents have to be involved in an IEP meeting or even a 504 meeting, they should never ever feel like they're unheard, and be able to walk away from an IEP meeting with answers, a plan, and a meaningful and collaborative academic future for their student. And the IEP is always reviewed annually, and every 3 years you're able to conduct a full reevaluation for the student. Last but not least, there was also a question on guardianship that came up, and a presentation on guardianship facilitated by the ARC of Morris was also shared with all the CPAC parents and participants. And all of the PowerPoint presentations were posted in our, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Bell?
I wanted to take a moment and say I thought everybody all the committees did a wonderful job in completing or preparing the due diligence questions. I think it is something that will help to ensure that we're taking all the right considerations into account as changes are being presented to us. What are the next steps with that?
I believe it was on our board goals, to be done, so I don't know that there's another step except that the committees are supposed to actually be using it on a regular basis.
Okay.
So, and we also talked about that it's not a static document. If something needs to be added, we can add it, going forward.
That's great. So so could we encourage every committee member or every board member to look at all the committee questions, just in case somebody thinks of another question that should be considered by a committee?
Yes, absolutely. That's why it was intended to be all in one document, so that everybody was aware of what was being asked at each committee. Mr. Raya?
Have all the committees met at least once since then, where they would have had a chance to
Policy,
address?
right? So it is in
Transportation has.
Okay,
and critical issues.
okay.
Mr. DeVito?
Yeah, and just a follow-up of that, could we just agree, if you're going to want to put a new question under that committee, just go to the chair of that committee, instead of having everyone just kind of start editing each one, and then we're not seeing where all these questions are coming from. Just kind of be able to keep the flow a little better. Is that okay?
Sure,
That'd be great.
absolutely.
Okay.
Mrs. Mayor?
The only committee I don't see is critical issues. Are they going to be, oh, you haven't met?
Yeah.
Yeah, policy has not met yet
Policy
either.
and critical issues haven't finalized theirs.
Sports haven't met.
Yeah, but they already have.
Yeah, sports, right. Okay, the only other item is the Central Middle School play is this weekend, so I would encourage board members and anybody else who'd like to go. It is 7 o'clock tomorrow and 1 o'clock on Saturday. I know I'm going Saturday.
We shall be there tomorrow.
You are going tomorrow?
Me and my girls.
Is Moana, right?
Yes, it is.
So, and I believe that's Moana Junior, excuse me. And I don't think finance met this last time, but I know there's some updates on finance and budgeting, and our lawyer is telling me that it's a public session matter, so we discuss it in public.
What are we talking?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You're gonna give a budget update? Do you have a budget update?
I don't have a budget update.
Okay, well, it's ongoing because the budget is coming out next time?
We're in the process of trying to balance our budget and create a budget.
Okay.
That's what we're in the process of doing.
Okay,
And we should have our preliminary budget by next board meeting, correct?
Yes, we will be voting on the tentative budget at the March 13th board meeting.
okay. So now we're up to the approval of minutes for the regular and executive minutes of February 13th. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes? Mrs. Mayor, and a second. Mrs. Chappelle, roll call?
Mrs. Abraham?
Yes.
Mr. Barrios?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mrs. Mayer?
Yes.
Mr. Rhea?
Yes.
Mrs. Chappelle?
Yes.
Dr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Cogan?
Yes. And now it's time for the superintendent's bulletin, number 13, Dr. Sutter.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cogan. Good evening, everyone. The CMS Middle School Musical is taking place this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The title is Moana Junior. Mr. Gray was proud to report that 40-plus students are involved in the production, and we're very proud of their efforts. Brooklawn Middle School is working on their annual SEL Day video, which will be out in a few weeks. Brooklawn has also received positive feedback from their public service announcement video, which they created concerning the topic of bullying, and as such, they will be creating another public service announcement video in the near future. ESL nights, the district will be hosting 2 ESL nights, family ESL nights, math night on March 13th and March 27th at the high school libraries. As you know, many of our ESL students require additional support in mathematics, and providing resources in their home language is essential to help them succeed both in the classroom and at home. This initiative aligns with our district's commitment to inclusivity and academic success for all students. In our STEM nights, our coordinating supervisor of 612 Science, Rachel Villanova, and our coordinating supervisor of 612 Mathematics, Brian McCourt, are hosting the following events in March. March 4th will be the STEM Pathways Impact Project presentations. March 14th will be a co-op and STEM career fair at Parsippany High School during the day. On the 20th, we'll have at Central Middle School a family STEM night, and they will be hosting a STEM Pathways Career Carnival at Parsippany Hills High School on March 4th, and a BMS Family STEM night on May 15th. Tonight, for your approval, we have superintendent bulletin items 1 through 23, with addendum and read-in items 24 through 45.
Mrs. Mayor?
Where was the ESL math night on the 13th and the 27th?
The district will be hosting 2 ESL family math nights on March 13th and March 27th at the high school libraries.
The high, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, the secretary's report, Mrs. Tedesco.
Hi, everyone. On tonight's secretary's report, we have our regular business motions, including the approval of the purchase of equipment for the Parsippany Hills cafeteria service lines. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Okay, we had no new business submitted ahead of time, so we're gonna go to the hearing of the public. At this time, if there's anyone who would like to address the board, please come up, sign your name and address in the book at the lectern, and state your name for the record, and please address the chair. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak to the board. It would be helpful if you would like to address the board to please come up now and sign in so you are ready when the first speaker is finished. As a reminder, we are video recording this meeting. If you're a student who wishes to speak, we ask you do not provide your home address, but rather give only the name of the town in which you live. If you're a parent wishing to discuss a specific matter pertaining to your child during this portion of the meeting, you may request the board temporarily suspend the video recording. Alternatively, please consider speaking privately about the matter to the superintendent after the meeting. Speakers should refrain from using specific student or staff names in their comments and are referred to bylaw 168 for further information regarding the videotaping of our meetings. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Go ahead. Wait till you get, can you wait, just wait for a mic, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Stockdale. I think most of you know me. I've been to several meetings within the last few years. And I'd just like to encourage you, each one of you, to reach out into the community, to have more inclusivity, to have more diversity among the board so that you'll understand where I come from. I am a nurse by profession. I've been for many years. I've seen a lot of things. And my son has autism, ADHD, and although we've overcome a lot of barriers, we do not overcome the diagnosis. The diagnosis is something that's always going to be there, and that's a constant battle. And what I would also like each of you to consider is that to be more inclusive, and I'll tell you about my experience today. I had agreed to have Zachary graduate because he's 19 years old, and there's only so much he can grasp and be able to overcome as a student. He can overcome a lot of other things, maybe do other things such as work in a job or do something much more interesting. But I was told today, I've been asking several times, can he participate as a rite of passage in other activities such as senior portraits, things to make him feel more inclusive, that he's reached a relative part of his life. Yet I haven't received any returning phone calls back or anything, but I was told today that the senior portraits, the photographer was not scheduled to come back. And I felt kind of offended by that. I said, well, is there anyone I could speak to? No, there's no one I could speak to. When you go to the high school, and I understand this to a certain part, it's just like breaking into Fort Knox. You sit outside in the freezing cold and talk to somebody over a phone. And to me, that's just no way to get answers to a simple question. I just think that there needs to be someone that listens to parents or answers questions as opposed to going to somebody's mailbox and waiting for a few days or a few months and getting no response. That's just no way to treat any parent. I just ask of you that you take my questions or my matters into consideration and never treat anyone, make a difference. Probably Zachary could care less. I just thought that it would be a good thing for him to say among all his peers that I did something today, that I'm a real senior. I took senior portraits, and to know that he's not going to be a part of that process is disheartening. But I just wanted to present that matter to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Okay, so then we are up, so we're gonna end the public session and we'll go to the roll call vote for Superintendent Bulletin number 13, items number 1 through 23 with addendum items 24 through 45 and read-ins. May I have a motion? Mr. DeVito, and a second, Mrs. Dr. Wright. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Abraham?
Yes.
Mr. Barrios?
Recuse on read-ins, page 2, number 2. Yes to everything else.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mrs. Mayer?
Yes?
Mr. Rhea?
Yes.
Mrs. Chappelle?
Yes.
Dr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Kogan?
Yes. And now I would like a motion to go into executive session for negotiations. Just a note that action will not be taken at the end of the executive session. So Mrs. Chappelle, and a second, from Mr. Rhea. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
I don't know how long executive session will take. at the high school, they're having a service night for Noah Rinkovitz.
Oh,
So if you guys, do finish early, you want to sneak open, I think it's till 9 o'clock. So it's a good night and, a really good thing, so.
are they doing the heart pillows again, or are they?
I assume they are. I know they have that relationship with that organization, so that's a great night.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are officially in closed session.